Once your bike has been delivered, there are a few steps you'll need to complete before heading outdoors, including aligning the handlebars and attaching the left pedal. Here's how. Before we begin, you will need a hex key set. You may need a 15mm pedal spanner, some grease, a pair of safety gloves, and a bike stand is advised but not essential. Also, make sure you have plenty of space and that you're in a room with good lighting. To prepare, carefully unbox the bike, ensuring the pedal box is set to one side. This contains the left pedal, manual, and pre-delivery inspection form. It's important that the manual and PDI form are filed safely away. The build instructions will be attached to the bike's top tube, and it's handy to have these nearby for reference. Now that everything's prepared, let's take a look at the two types of stem you may encounter and how to complete the build for each type. A quill stem is easy to identify, as it features a one-piece construction with a single bolt on the top. To align the handlebar with a quill stem, start by removing any plug covering the top bolt and then loosen the top bolt using a hex key. Once loose, rotate the handlebars counterclockwise so that it's a 90-degree angle with the front wheel and the stem is facing forwards. Also, make sure that the fork is the correct way round. This will usually mean that the rim brake will be on the front of the fork, or a disc brake will be on the opposite side of the bike to the gears. If the rim brake is on the back of the fork, or the disc brake is on the right side, the fork is backwards. There is also a minimum insertion mark on the quill stem, and the stem must be inserted far enough that this marking isn't visible. Once you're confident that the handlebar is positioned correctly, tighten up the top bolt until it's firm. To check that the handlebar is correctly tightened, hold the front wheel between your legs and try twisting. If there's any movement, the bolt will need further tightening. Before finishing, remember to place the plug back over the top of the bolt if one was fitted. Now it's time to attach the pedal. To tighten, you actually need to turn counterclockwise. Start by threading the pedal in by hand. It's important not to force it. The pedal has flat sides so that you can tighten it with a 15mm spanner counterclockwise. Make sure to tighten it firmly but without forcing it. Now that that's done, and before you go for a ride, also check the tyre pressures. The advised pressure range is provided on the side wall of the tyre. Unlike a quill stem, a threadless stem features multiple parts and bolts. In particular, you will notice clamping bolts where the stem meets the tube from the fork. To align the handlebar, start off by removing the covering plug, if there is one. Then loosen the bolt using a hex key. Use a hex key to loosen the clamp bolts. This bike is fitted with dropped handlebars, so an additional step is required. Loosen the front plate bolts, allowing the handlebar to rotate as the bolts loosen. Once loose, rotate the handlebar counterclockwise so that it's at a 90-degree angle with the front wheel and the stem is facing forwards. Also, make sure that the fork is the correct way around. This will usually mean that the rim brake will be on the front of the fork, or a disc brake will be on the opposite side of the bike to the gears. If the rim brake is on the back of the fork, or the disc brake is on the right-hand side, the fork is backwards. Once the handlebars are positioned correctly, tighten the top bolt until there's resistance. It's important to check that there's no play in the headset by turning the wheel sidewards with the front brake on and rocking the bike. If there's play, you will need to tighten the top bolts a little more before moving to the next step. If it's okay, tighten the stem bolts until firm. You can check that the handlebar is safely tightened by placing the front wheel between your legs and trying to twist the handlebars. If there's any movement, the bolts will need tightening further. For dropped handlebars, you will need to set the handlebar in the correct position and then tighten the front plate bolts. To finish, make sure to test the handlebar and that there's no rotational movement. Now it's time to attach the pedal. The left pedal is always tightened counterclockwise. Start by threading the pedal in by hand, making sure not to force it. And on this bike, it can be tightened from the back using a 6mm hex key, ensuring you don't over-tighten it. With the handlebar aligned and the pedals attached, It's important to finish by checking the bike's tyre pressures. You can find the recommended tyre pressure on the tyre wall. Now your bike is ready to head outdoors. Remember, you can always get a free safety check from your local Halfords store, and they'll be able to assist you with any bike servicing needs.